there, y'all, and welcome back to Booked with the Cook. Well, fall is officially upon us, if you live in a part of the world with actual seasons, that is. And there are few things that hit the spot when it starts to get cool quite like a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. Speaking of grilled cheese, this video is sponsored. Kinda. The fine folks at Cabot Creamery were kind enough to send the library a selection of their shredded cheeses and butter. So now I can use this lovely gift to show all of you how to make this killer homemade classic combo. The ingredients you'll need are some good bread. I'm using my homemade bread here, and for that recipe, I'll link my very first video in the description down below. But if you don't feel like making your own, no sweat, just use any store-bought bread you want. Next, you'll need some good quality cheese and some good quality butter. Thanks again to Cabot Creameries for helping us out on this one. And that'll just about do it for the ingredients for the grilled cheese. And now for the soup. You'll need a few cloves of garlic, 1 or 2 medium sweet or yellow onions, though I would highly recommend sweet this time, a few sticks of celery, 2 small or 1 big carrot, 1 big 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. A lot of YouTubers will tell you to use specifically like San Marzano tomatoes, but nah, just use whatever brand you like most or whatever's cheapest. Also, another side note, you can use whole tomatoes as well, but I just like using the crushed tomatoes just to save time. And finally, some good quality stock. I'm just going to use the store-bought stuff this time, but if you want to use a nearly free veggie or chicken stock, I'll also link my recipes to those in the description too. Now, I didn't include my list of spices this time, and that's because I tend to wing it when it comes to my tomato soup. For this go-around, I'm using some fresh rosemary and some fresh thyme I had left over from another dinner, as well as your standard salt and pepper combo. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get to cooking. We're going to get started on the soup first, since it takes a little bit longer, and because the longer it simmers, the better it'll be. First, chop up all your onions, carrots, celery, and garlic. I'll show y'all again how I mince my veggies for this particular soup. However, you don't have to do it this way since we are going to be blending it in the end. So, if you want to just chunk them up and pop them into your pot, that's fine too. But do consider at least mincing the onions and celery pretty small so they can cook down and get nice and soft, because I don't know about y'all, but I do not like that crunchy nonsense in a blended soup. Now that we've got that done, throw in just your minced onions with just a little glug of olive oil, truly no more than 2 or 3 tablespoons. Now turn your eye onto medium heat and let that cook down until they're completely caramelized. And when I say caramelized, I mean caramelized. These things are going to be cooking anywhere from between 30 to 45 minutes. You may even need to sprinkle a touch of water in there every once in a while to get that delicious fond off the bottom of your pot and to keep your onions from burning. Now, this may seem like a lot of unnecessary effort, but the reason I've started using caramelized onions is because tomato soups almost always call for sugar to be added back to them. Y'all know I'm trying to make these recipes healthy for y'all, so I'm adding as little processed sugar as possible and leaning on more mellow and sweet flavored vegetables like these naturally sweet onions and my carrots to give us that sweetness to balance out the tinny and acidic canned tomatoes. Speaking of carrots, now that your onions are all caramelized, go ahead and add them and your celery. Now, I ain't going to have you cook them down as long as the onions, but you do want the celery to start to soften, or at least I do, because again, I do not like that veggie crunch in my blended soups. After that's done, pour in your stock and add your sliced or minced garlic. I wanted the garlic to have a bit more of a powerful flavor, so I opted to not saute it with my other veggies. Once it's had a few minutes to simmer, then add your tomatoes and a touch of tomato paste. Honestly, I'm just eyeballing it here, but I like a lot of that flavor, so I'd say I'm using about 2 good tablespoons of the stuff. Give that a real quick stir and then bring it up to a simmer before dropping the heat down to medium-low. At this point, go ahead and add your salt and your pepper and any herbs you want to throw in there. And now you're just going to let it go, stirring every once in a while. Once the carrots are soft enough to be crushed on the side of your pot with the back of your spoon, you're now ready for the blending step. I will once again be using my immersion blender here, but if you don't have one, that's fine. Just like last time with the potato soup, you can use a regular blender for this one as well. You may also want to use a blender if you want a very fine blend. Mine is going to be a bit more on the rustic side. My folks like it that way, but you don't have to follow this recipe to the letter. That's what's great about basic soups like this. It is all to your own personal taste. And now that the soup's done, we're just going to let that sit and simmer while we make our grilled cheese sandwiches. If you're using the bread recipe from our first video, obviously that don't come pre-sliced, so cut off a few pieces and try to get them as even as possible. My suggestion would for it to not be any thicker than a ½ inch. Otherwise, you'll have a grilled butter instead of a grilled cheese. On to our cheeses. We're going to be using a combo of Cabot's extra sharp cheddar as well as their New York and Vermont cheddar shredded blend. But why are we using shredded cheeses? Well, that's partially because that's just what they sent us, but there seems to be a logic to this. See, we told them we wanted to demonstrate cooking a grilled cheese, and they were clearly thinking 2 steps ahead of me because shredded cheese is easier to blend and melts quicker than sliced cheese, which is great for us because this thick bread is going to be acting like an insulator. Go ahead and get your butter melting in a non-stick skillet over medium or medium-high heat. Now, I have a guest star today because my husband is going to be helping me out on this one since he is the grilled cheese sandwich king. And according to him, if you're using fresh bread, the best way to do it is by prepping your bread however you want, and then laying it slice first in the pan, piling up your cheese, and then placing your other slice on top. Once you've got your leaning tower of cheese established, press down with your spatula. This will flatten the bread, yes, but it'll also facilitate all that cheese melt. Once that side is as toasty as you want, give it a flip and press down again. When both sides are as toasty as you like, I prefer mine to be a bit on the lighter side. Plate up your grilled cheese and pour you a bowl of soup, and voila! You now have the quintessential fall favorite made entirely from scratch. And that'll just about wrap it up for this episode, y'all. If you have any questions or suggestions, just drop them in the comment section down below. And I'll see y'all next time. Take care!